Gentlemen, this is kind of unusual to have two political foes coming together like this. Talk about why you are coming together. James, let's start with you.
Sure. Actually, I think I reached out to John a little while ago about some divisive rhetoric that had happened in our district, and just kind of put out the feelers of seeing, where are we at? What can we do about these kinds of things? And he responded and was like, yeah, we do have things that we need to be working on. And so, I mean, that was a little while ago, and then John reached out to me in an email, and I was really happy to see that, to say like, hey, we know where we're at in our country when it comes to the political discourse. It's not a place we want it to be. We tried to show that in our debate, that we can be civil, even though we do have very different approaches to governance, and but that we can approach that in a more civilized manner. He said, let's do an op-ed. Let's write something and see if we can do that. And I thought, of course, anything to advance, even if it's a small way, the political discourse into a much more less heated moment. I was totally on board with that. So it was great to hear from John.
When you talk about the discourse and the way it's playing out across the country, what harm do you see that playing in our society?
Well, I think we see it everywhere, and it's unfortunate. James pointed out that we're candidates with very, very different political philosophies. And what's been great to me is this race has been about those philosophies, not about character or personality. I'll be the first to admit, there's lots of things James could attack about my character, but we've chosen to talk about the issues. And that's been really, really, really fun, and I enjoy these types of campaigns.
Some might say to you, like in your party, you're missing out on the opportunity that he just mentioned right here. Yeah. So why are you taking this approach?
I think for me, being where I'm at in my position as a person of color, the first Indigenous candidate, I'm the example. I'm leading this on. I think that the kinds of things that I've been about, my value system about empathy and social responsibility and fairness, means that I don't go after someone like that. It's much more about the vision and giving people hope. I think that's what we both agree about leadership, is that we're trying to inspire the people of who we're trying to represent and show that. And I don't think that attacking each other is who we are as people.
Is that what you were talking about in your first statement when you said there was some negative rhetoric in your district? You were hearing it from other people?
No, I mean, just past leaders, things had come up, and I was concerned about that, and I expressed that interest, or my interest about that to John, and I was glad that he responded to that, and I recognized that there are places that we need to do better all around, both on the left and the right, and seeing where that can go on. I think what's most concerning for us is how that discourse has gone from just attacking, but then going into actual physical violence. I think this is very concerning for a democracy. I think we're both worried that we're going to have differences, but we need to, in order to bring down some of that violence, is also to bring down some of that divisive rhetoric as well.
So you've not only, go ahead, you were going to say something.
I was just going to say, I feel like it's just really important for people to understand that when you have differences of opinion, it doesn't mean that that's a bad person, right? And so we've somehow, as a society, gravitated to this, well, we disagree, therefore they must be a bad person. Right. And that's what I've loved about our race, is this realization that we are very different on a lot of issues, and it's a lot of fun to talk about those issues, and that's okay. I've gotten to know James enough to know that he's an incredibly good person. I can't wait to engage him if I'm fortunate enough to win in the Native American issues in the district. This is somebody who can actually help me, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So not only have you committed to keep it cordial within your own race, but you're asking others to do the same. Yeah. Talk about that.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that we kind of discussed back and forth with the draft a little bit is, we knew it was important that both of us take a stand and lead by example, but I think it's also important to call out other people, especially people who are already in leadership positions. I mean, it's one thing to be candidates and be civil, but when you have received the mantle of leadership from the people, there's a higher expectation, a higher standard that needs to be with that, and to make sure that we live up to that. I mean, that's what we should live up to as Americans.
Thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. As I go around the district, I have people who are appreciative of our race, but they do wish and long for this across the United States, and wish that we could see more of this coming from the leaders. And sometimes I feel a little powerless to influence them, but I know what I can do myself.
When you take a look at some of the national events that have happened, the bomb devices being sent out, the shooting of the Republican congressional baseball practice, do you see that as an end result of what you guys are talking about here, that this discourse is so fiery and so heated that it's getting to the point where we're starting to cross that line?
I think so. I mean, it definitely is a factor into it. When we have demonized the other side so much and we see them as an enemy, like the bad guy or the bad person, it's easy to not see the things that we have in common, that we're all Americans here. We do have differences, and we should debate those vigorously, but also that there are so many things that keep us together, and it is a common humanity. I think being who we are as our character, I think we see each other as brothers and sisters, and I think that's an important thing to remember.
At the end of the day, is there more that brings us together than tears us apart?
Absolutely. As I'm listening to James, as different as we are on the political spectrum, I'll bet he and I could sit down and agree on 80% of how to move things forward. Yeah. And we're very different, but there's a lot that we do share in common. And unfortunately, we're not focusing on that part we share in common near as much as we are on those fringe issues.
Okay, so I'm hearing party extremes on both sides here yelling at you guys right now. What are you doing? Why are you saying these things? Your response to that?
That's funny. I'm on the extreme. Well, I mean, that's what they would consider. I think, and John has said himself, he's a staunch conservative, you know. But we take a moderate tone to how we talk about things, and I think that's important. At least for me, my campaign has been about whatever is normal, don't do that. And I think it'll help to bring shine a good light on what we can live up to. And if people are upset about that, then I'm kind of glad, because it gets us into the conversation about what we should be looking forward to.
Absolutely. You know, people are longing for civility. They're longing for good examples. And I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me after our debate, and they didn't comment on a position I took. They didn't comment on any great lines I had. What they all commented on was, it was so nice to see two people talk about the issues in a civil manner. We're not getting enough of that.
Yeah. I mean, in fact, actually, there was an old high school friend that I had, and said, James, I don't agree with you on pretty much everything you said in that debate, but I respect the tone that you took, and I respect you as a person. That's exactly the kind of thing that we need. Luckily, he doesn't live in District 3, so he's not getting that vote. But
two last questions. We're seeing a pretty ugly race in the District 4, the 4th Congressional District. You guys know both of the candidates on a personal level. They were friendly with each other beforehand. Give me some thoughts on that race and how you've seen it escalate to the point that it has.
Yeah, we just talked about this just before coming in. I think we both see that the voters are the one who get the short end of the stick on this. There are issues that we care about, and as politicians we should be talking about those things and our vision to touch on those issues. But when you're attacking someone's character all the time, then the voters don't really have. I feel like that's why so many people are turned off by politics, is because of the vitriol, because of the backbiting and the mudslinging. And you know, I do know Ben. I think he's a good person, and I hope that he takes the moment and steps back from some of this and focuses again on the things that we care about.
I think the race is a good example of what we see a lot, which is these outside influences coming in. And saw that in a race that I was in earlier on. And it's one of the things I think as Utahns we have to be super careful of, is trying to identify people coming from outside our state who would spend large amounts of money and set the tone in many cases for these races. And it's really unfortunate.
Okay, one last question. So we sit together here. It feels like kind of a kumbaya moment, but make no mistake, you guys are both in this to win it. Talk about that.
Yeah. You know, I think I know the window of opportunity for a Democrat to run in District 3 is small. which also means that I have nothing to lose, which could have meant that I could have gone after John in any way possible, and I wouldn't have done anything. But I think that by running this differently and seeing some of the national things, it gives maybe a little bit more momentum than a normal Democratic candidate would have. And so we're looking forward to the end and gunning for the win. But we're just looking forward to November 6th.
Yeah, absolutely. I thanked James in the race, and I'd do it again because I've been in a number of races, and it takes two to have a good race. And it's not enough if one wants to have a good race. It really takes two candidates who are willing to make it about issues, and so I'm grateful for his approach, and hope that we can continue to set a good example, not only in this race but after this race, working together. There are issues that we both care about that we'd like to work on in the district, and hopefully we can use this just as a beginning for our relationship and doing good here in Utah.
All right, appreciate your time. Is there anything else you guys would want to say that I didn't ask you about?
Vote Republican.
Or Democrat. No, I think it's important for everyone to show up to vote and participate in our democracy.
Yeah.
All right.